welcome back to Going Scared. I'm Jessica Honegger, founder of the world-changing brand Noonday Collection, and I'm so glad to have you here for today's conversation. Our Going Scared community gathers here every week for direct and honest conversations that help you live a life of courage by leaving comfort and going scared. I can't think of, maybe outside of brushing your teeth, but the habit of cooking dinner and eating dinner, which ultimately means we got to plan dinner. I put this out there on Instagram a few months ago that I was going to start taking over meal planning in our family from Joe, and I have never seen more impassioned response on anything I've ever posted on Instagram. So I thought, wow, we need to do a podcast on this habit of meal planning. And so, of course, I had to have on Holly Erickson of The Modern Proper. Holly Erickson is the second half of The Modern Proper, which is a food blog, an Instagram account, and is now a book that's about, guess what, weeknight meals. I love talking to Holly because she's living this. Her husband is an entrepreneur. She's got 3 kids that are 8 and under. She cooks. She really cooks. And you're going to hear my daughter actually babysits for her kids and often cleans up her kitchen for her, which, I love that she's also training my daughter on how to be a good babysitter. Modern Proper was born out of this idea that they wanted to pull together easy meals for the busy person. Meals that are healthy and great, but simple, and that you can throw together if you want to have friends over last minute, or if you just have one of those weeknights where you gotta feed the fam and don't know what to do. That is mainly what we talk about today. What are those 6 go-to recipes that Holly has on hand? And let me tell you, I took away about 3 new recipes that are going to be new staples in our family. I'm excited for you to give this show a listen. Holly, I first just wanted to ask you, what does this look like in your real life? Like, how has this come to be? Because you and Scott, your husband, y'all are both entrepreneurs. You've got 3 kids. How have you guys created healthy dinner life in your family?
So the last 2 years, I've taken over the recipe development for the Modern Proper food blog. And so I have at any given time a list of 40 things in the queue that will eventually get on the blog. And I am responsible for doing all of the recipe research for them, doing all of the recipe development, and doing all of the recipe testing. So at any given time, I have 2 to 4 recipe tests in my fridge to grab for whenever we need it. But on a normal week where I'm not doing some heavy recipe testing, I actually learned this trick from our friend Micah that I have these. She has these, like, she does the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday thing where it's like, these are the things, tacos on Tuesday, Monday I, make this dish or whatever. And so my kids definitely know my 4 to 6 repertoire that they really love that are our go-tos. And so they'll get a mix of recipe tests, something different, something new. You have to try these vegetables or whatever they're not used to. And then I mix it with just a few things that they love, and we kind of rotate it. And once or twice a week, we might rely on, getting a pizza or something like that. So,
okay, I want to hear what your repertoire is, because I find this so interesting. Like, everyone has their 4 to 6. I mean, at the end of the day, we probably eat about 8 of the same meals,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's like a tiny twist to them. So what are yours?
They love any sort of like spaghetti and meatballs, or spaghetti and like a ragu sauce. I love making any sort of like noodles, like chow mein noodles. They love like chicken chow mein. We have a really great recipe on our site for that. My son is dairy-free, I should add. So a lot of our stuff we do dairy-free. I have a really great Thai fried rice with basil that they absolutely love. And then they love tacos, any kind of like, we have some sheet pan chicken dinners that they love. I try to sneak in a salmon and like asparagus dinner every couple weeks. My son does not love salmon. My daughter does like it. And then I have a couple cheat meals where I'll just keep like my favorite Indian simmer sauce in the cupboard, or like a, spaghetti sauce. And then I always keep like some frozen naan or something in the fridge or the freezer. And so I'll just make up like a rice, and I'll throw in a can of coconut milk into my simmer sauce, and I'll dump some peas in and chicken. And that's like one of my cheat meals that, in a pinch, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have naan. I have my Indian simmer sauce, and I just throw it all together. And they like that as well. Peas and all. They'll eat the peas.
That's great. I see that. I
Yeah.
don't have that. What's your favorite Indian simmer sauce?
I would have to look up the brands, but Trader Joe's has some Brooklyn Deli, spelled Brooklyn like in New York. And then I think deli is spelled Delhi. Yeah. They are amazing. They have tikka masala. They have all kinds of, I just look for this. I look for mild, and I just make sure it has no dairy in it, which they normally don't because they're coconut based. Yeah. And it doesn't even require you to add the coconut milk. I just always do. And it kind of spreads the dish, feeds more mouths.
Okay, something else that you seem to do effortlessly, and you've been remodeling your house, and so we haven't seen each other in our homes in a while, which I can't wait till y'all start entertaining again, because it's like your house is so fun and you just kind of pull things out. And that is such a gift where you can pull things out and it looks intentional, but it looks effortless. Is it effortless? What about when you're just randomly, because you're really good about this, you randomly have friends over spontaneously. You've got your pizza oven, which you can talk about. What are those sort of go to? I'm having some friends over, and I think for a lot of us, that feels overwhelming. I know sometimes I'm like seeing some friends at church or some people I want to get to know, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I need to have them over for dinner. And that very thought is like, I want to have them over, but I'm also overwhelmed by the thought of that. And I would love to not feel that way. And I think especially pandemic wise, we've gotten really out of the habit of
Yeah.
just having easy casual come over for dinner tonight. So what
Yeah.
does easy casual come over for dinner tonight look like for you?
Well, first of all, I'll say one of my favorite articles, as someone who just loves to host, is super social, and wants people over all the time, every night. I read it was early Facebook days, and I was quite a bit younger, but I think it really made an impact on me. It had the S word in it, so I'll bleep it out and say crappy instead. But the article was called How to Have a Crappy Dinner Party and See Your Friends More Often, which was just, it was so good. There were rules that they were setting up, which was like, you must only cook food that is already in your fridge. You cannot go to the grocery store to go prepare anything better than what you would already have on hand. You cannot pick up your house. So it has to just be exactly how you came home from work, and your house looks the way it looks. And the third rule was you have to act jokingly surprised when your guests show up at your door. But the idea of the article was, with these few things in place, if you want to see your friends more often, you can see your friends more often. You just don't have to go to the lengths that you normally would to make sure your house is perfect and make sure, you're prepared. Like, I've had friends cook dinner for us, and it is the simplest, like beans and rice bowl. And I'm like, wow, this, I know because I cook food. I'm like, this took 30 minutes to prepare. And I am so happy and so satisfied and glad they didn't bend over backwards, slaying in the kitchen for hours, because this is comforting. And all I really want is to hang out with them and enjoy, some simple food. So I think expectations is something that, like, we have this expectation that if we invite our friends over, that, we have to prepare this elaborate thing. But most recently, I'll use an example. We have some friends who love to travel, and we love to travel, and they've just started taking their kids to different countries. We haven't done that because we have a 3-year-old at home yet, but the show The Amazing Race came back on finally after like years, and so we started inviting them over, like, do you want to come over on Thursdays and watch The Amazing Race with the kids? And so I'll just make like a super simple pot of soup. Like one of my favorites that I made the other day is this. It's just an easily, you grab any sort of dumplings from, she's vegetarian. So I grabbed Whole Foods, grabbed some veggie dumplings, and then I grabbed some chicken dumplings for everybody else. And it's so simple. It's like 6 ingredients. Dump it. It's like shredded carrots, which you can buy from, pre-shredded. It's just so easy. And that's all we had. We didn't even have bread or anything because there's dough on the dumplings. So it's just kind of like this filling, one pot, 6 ingredients, and that's all we had. And everybody was happy, It wasn't like a 4-course meal. And then my last thing that I can think of right off the top of my head is my daughter is 9 and she is obsessed with setting the table. So if I let her set up the table and I ask my kids, hey, can you help pick up a little bit? I feel a lot more like I can stay in the kitchen just doing my thing, doing a few dishes if I can. And then if the guests come in and they see, that the table looks beautiful, I'm like, that's my daughter's, all her. The napkins might not look exactly the way they would look if I put them together, but all of our friends appreciate that. Even people who are new that we're inviting over that we don't know very well, I mean, they definitely appreciate those little touches.
See, I never have cooked with dumplings. Like, I don't think
Just
ever.
the frozen ones, just the frozen.
I know, but I mean, even that's what I think is so interesting and what gives me ideas is when I talk to
Yeah.
other people about what are your 6 staples because, I mean, sure, dumplings are absolutely delicious and that sounds really, really easy. So
Yeah,
what are some of those
it is.
things when you say cook from what's in your fridge and what's in your pantry? I know you named sort of the simple dinners that your kids like.
Mhm.
What about those simple ingredients that I could have someone over on Thursday night anytime? Like you tell me, hey, you have to have friends over tonight and I would not have to go to the grocery store. What would you pull together? Like tonight, if I'm like, hey, we want to come over tonight for dinner, what would you pull together from what you have on hand right now?
We would do, if we have pizza left over, you mentioned that we had a pizza oven. Pizza dough is super easy to make and does not take very long to like rise. So I use the Trader Joe's bruschetta for my pizza sauce. I just love it so much because it has some olive oil and tomatoes. I don't like that thick tomato sauce. So I can either really quickly whip up, like we always have mozzarella, we always have random pizza. Like I'll even like brown some sausage and cook up some bacon and just freeze them in the freezer. I have like frozen cubes of pesto in the freezer. Just lots of random things we could just throw together a pizza night. The grill, I could thaw out some meat. I always have like chicken thighs on hand and normally like all of my condiments that I could use to make, some sort of quick marinade. Let's see what else. I have
What's
like
a quick marinade for chicken thighs?
Okay, this would work for chicken thighs as well, but like a quick marinade for like salmon. We normally always have salmon in the fridge. And then like either Scott could grab some veggies or people always ask, hey, can I bring anything? Sometimes I'll be like, can you, grab a couple veggies that will roast? I have salmon. Or like pick up a loaf of bread. I have salmon and some veggies. But I'll throw together like a little bit of brown sugar, a little bit of Dijon, a little bit of soy sauce. I like to use tamari to keep it gluten-free. A little bit of olive oil, that kind of stuff. Just like you're making a really easy dressing or something and you can marinate. Or if you have dressing, bottled dressing, Italian dressing, all of those make a great marinade for like any sort of chicken that you have. And you can throw it on the grill or you can throw it in the oven. You don't always want to throw it in a cast iron pan because some of those marinades have a lot of sugar, honey, and they'll burn. But and then another one that I love keeping on hand is frozen. Like I'll keep tortellini. Like you buy it in the fresh section, but you can keep it in the freezer. Like it'll freeze. And and I always have like sausage in the freezer, like ground sausage. And so sometimes I do have to go quickly to the store, but like we have a great tortellini sausage soup that everybody loves. And normally, if I make that, I'll just have to grab some fresh kale and I normally have heavy cream on hand because that's what I put in my coffee. But that's one that, if you don't have that on hand, you'd have to grab that too. But soup, just things that keeping like, 10 of your favorite recipes that are under like 6 ingredients is, I think, really helpful to have because if you want to do a quick, like have somebody over, And then, there's always like when we lived in Vancouver, Washington, right outside of Portland, we would always have friends over on Tuesday, but we would just pick up Antojo tacos. Like we would just get all these carnita tacos, like we'd get plates of them. And then I would just make chips and guacamole and have people over.
That's my go-to. I mean,
Yeah.
my go-to is literally, it is only Tex-Mex.
Mm-hmm.
It is, it's like, or Mexican, tacos and actually we just found a food truck where you can buy carnitas.
In our
Like,
neighborhood?
it's close. It's really close. Yes. And it is so delicious. And I'm like, boom, we have a new meal. We have a new
Yeah.
easy dinner
Yeah.
plan. Okay. So you mentioned that when you're not recipe testing, you do the whole Monday nights this, Tuesday nights this, Wednesday nights this. When do you plan that out and when do you shop for it? Or are you flying by the seat of your pants every day?
I normally plan stuff out on Monday, which a lot of people like to plan out on the weekend, but I like to look like I'll do something real easy tonight, like maybe that Indian simmer sauce or something I have on hand. But I'll go grocery shopping today and look at like what are the few things we put between 2 and 3, sometimes 4 blog posts up per week. So I'll look at like I'm pretty far ahead. So I'll look at what I'm going to make this week. And then I'll kind of just plan around that. Like, oh, did we have tacos last week? Maybe I'll throw some ground beef and some salsa into the crock pot and make some taco meat, for this week. And I'll just kind of plan it out. Like, should I make some taquitos? I'll grab a rotisserie chicken and shred that up. And I just add in sour cream or salsa and roll them together and make some baked taquitos. I'll look at like what's on my work to-do list. And then sometimes I'll be like, oh, I'll make a reel of these quesadillas or something. And I'll, go from there. So I just normally do that on Mondays. And then I do all my shopping and then I'm ready because we have childcare help on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. So normally Monday, it's just me and my 3-year-old and we hang out and I do my grocery list while we're playing with Magnetiles or whatever. And I'll just be researching, all of my things for the week.
Do you ever get tired of cooking?
There have been times when I've wanted to throw in the towel on the like business portion of things. Like, oh my gosh, I'm working too many hours. This is too much. But no, I don't think I'll ever, even if I stop doing what I do for a living, I think I still would love to host and cook. Sometimes it gets to be too much just from the business standpoint when it's like we have a lot. With the cookbook, it's like we're keeping the blog running. We're also writing a cookbook. Now that's come to an end because the cookbook's going to, it's officially going to be out April 5th. So we kind of have this in between, and I'm back to kind of enjoying, the lazy testing stuff in the kitchen and stuff like that. And my kids love to help. So it's kind of a whole fun new thing right now.
What does that look like? How have you encouraged your kids to help?
Well, I have these knives from, I think it's Opinel is how you say it. So I think it's a French company. I might be pronouncing it wrong, but there are these little chef knives that have a hole that you put your front finger through. So you're like holding the knife, but instead of your your pointer finger being on the side of the knife, you tuck it under. And so, I'll just give them jobs like peeling carrots. I'll give them jobs like chopping things. I'll give them jobs like stirring things, mixing things, blending things, that kind of stuff. And they love it.
Okay, so you have a book coming out with your
Mm-hmm.
business partner, Natalie,
Mm-hmm.
and it is The Modern Proper Simple Dinners for Every Day. I know there's a million things you could have written about. You have had this wildly popular blog. You get so much traffic to your site for people who just want to grab recipes. I have a friend who basically she only cooks from your
Oh my
website.
gosh.
And I want to know why simple dinners for every day?
Yeah, this my business partner, her husband actually just left yesterday and we had like a 6-hour planning session and just not rebranding per se, but just kind of like honing in, before this book comes out, getting back to our like who, what, where, when, whys, whatever. And it was super fun and we always learn so much when we do that. So when we decided to write this cookbook, we originally started playing around with like, sides and would we put in salads and when we, like sections, different sections. And the more we thought about it, the more we were like, man, I cook brunch once in a while, and I cook, lunch once in a while for myself. But 90% of the time when I'm grabbing a cookbook off my shelf, I am grabbing it because I'm making dinner. And so we were like, man, how do we just make a cookbook that everybody's using all the time? That it's not something that just sits up on a shelf and looks pretty, that it's something that, gets splatters on and folded pages and all that good stuff. And we were like, man, I really think that we should just do dinners, like all dinners. We kind of started down the weeknight dinner path in 2016. Our blog was a few years old, and we got nominated for the Savoir Blog Awards in the weeknight dinner category. And at that time, we were doing all sorts of stuff, like zucchini muffins or some craft, some home thing. And when we got nominated for that, we really were like, man, we really are weeknight dinner girls. Like that's like the majority of what we're doing. And I think that we should pivot and just really focus on family dinners, and not just family dinners, but dinners, that people can invite their friends over and, cook for their partner, or cook for their family or their parents, whatever. With that in mind, we set out to just have a cookbook with 100 dinners in it. And yeah, we try to keep it really simple in the sense that, some of them take 30 minutes, some of them take a little over an hour, but they're all going to be like, we're not going to send you on a wild goose chase to find any, ingredient that you would only find if you live in New York and you have some specialty market down the street from you. That's kind of where the simple comes in, like simple ingredient wise, and simple as in, you might spend more than an hour making something from the book, but it's not going to be a difficult, real in-depth type of meal.
Well, weeknight dinners is what I know our audience, our Going Scared listeners, are hungry to learn about. And I think it's because I think especially in the last couple of years, there's so much decision fatigue anyway
Mm-hmm.
that even having to think about dinner feels just like a nightmare for a lot of people. And so having just some go-to simple recipes to go to. And, we have that in our family. We're the same. We've got Taco Tuesday. My husband, all my kids hunt. And so we literally kill our own game. And that is what we mainly eat throughout the year. Sound like a pioneer family. So we have venison tacos on Tuesday night. And then we usually do something with sausage because venison sausage. And
Mm-hmm.
then we do usually grab a salmon, and we don't usually have frozen salmon. So we usually will grab that fresh from somewhere is another one. And then during the winter, there's usually a soup happening. Now, of
Mm-hmm.
course, this is all my husband, because what happened is he asked me to take over and help out. And what's hard is I find that if you're going to cook the dinners, you also need to be the one to do the grocery shopping.
Yeah.
Right? Because again, you kind of know the ingredients you're grabbing. And I am a little bit more fly by the seat of your pants kind of person. So I took over and I kind of went overboard because I'm like, I'm going to make this amazing. So I did fancy stuff. And then work really hit probably the roughest patch we've ever had in 11 years. And I was like, bye. I'm
Yeah.
out. Like, unless you want me to go buy the El Rincon rotisserie chicken every single night, like, I cannot do this, honey. And so he took back over. But now we're at a more stable place again. And I'm like, okay, how can we go together on this? I think that is what is challenging, is how can two partners, two people in marriage carry this together? And they don't have to, because, I know there's give and takes. And, usually I think there is one person who is the primary cook. But what does that look like for you and Scott? Because you said you kind of took over a couple of years ago. So I'm just curious what this dynamic is like in your marriage. How do you kind of do the food thing and kind of do the household things? What does that look like to partner together?
Well, if you came to my house right now, you would smell delicious banana muffins that my husband made this morning for the kids before school. He is on breakfast duty 9 times out of 10. He also travels a lot, so when he's gone, I'm the one up making breakfast. But we are big. Don't ask me why. I have been asked a million times, and I just do it, and I love it, and I want my kids to look back and remember their childhood that way. But we are hot breakfast like
We
every
are
morning.
too, girl.
I was at a women's luncheon thing at a church one time, and they asked a question, and it was like, free yourself from the guilt of see how many more people just feed their kids cereal in the morning. But I was so surprised, not from a judgmental, way. I just was so surprised when they asked how many people serve hot breakfast, like most mornings. And there were like 6 of us and like 100 who raised our hands. And I was like, oh my gosh, I did not realize. I
This
mean,
was
I
a
grew up
unique thing.
eating cereal,
I did
and
too. My
yeah,
husband loves eggs, and
yeah,
he does the breakfast in the home.
yeah,
So it's not some, amazing reason behind it. It's really like Joe likes eggs. But there is something it is a nice start to the day, but I had got to give all credit to my husband because and also we're the family like that you get what you get, you don't whine about it. And
yeah,
our dinners ever since they were little. So our kids eat what we eat. And so of
yeah,
course they hate it when we have nights where anything that has like mushrooms or bell peppers.
yeah.
But when it comes to breakfast, it's so funny. Each one of them gets their own custom thing because one of my kids does not like eggs, which completely blows my mind.
Oh my gosh.
And then one of my kids loves smoked salmon. And
Uh-huh.
so he's like bougie. He gets like smoked salmon and cream cheese and pita
Oh
chips.
my
And then
gosh.
someone else loves smoothies. And then Joe and I like eggs. So, but we don't, you know what? We never eat cereal in the morning ever.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
Yeah.
I do love that. I love knowing that about you. Yeah.
But bacon muffins is a whole nother ball game, girl.
Yeah, he makes scones. He makes, I
Okay,
mean,
so he's a
he's an
cooker
early,
too.
yeah, he's like considers himself an amateur baker. So he doesn't cook dinner very much. If I'm out of town, he'll normally grab a pork chop and force the kids to eat some sort of vegetable. Like he'll throw some cauliflower or broccoli into the oven. And that's and grab a baguette. That's like his extent of he'll salt and pepper he'll salt and pepper a steak or he'll salt and pepper a pork chop and give it to the kids.
But that
I'm
sounds
always worried my
great.
kids are going to choke on the nights that I'm like, cut that up small. But yeah, he's got some back pocket things. And I think the back pocket things are just so, it's like have a dad or a mom or, a parent who doesn't cook all the time. It's like just switch the pizza night for like some easy back pocket, recipe that you don't even need a recipe for. It's just, you just have to know how high to have the pan when you put the pork in or whatever. So he's getting better at those kind of things. But as far as like the household things go, yeah, he'll cook breakfast and, I'll normally clean up his dishes throughout the day if I'm cooking or prepping anything. But he loves to help if I'm like, oh my gosh, can you please like chop up these mushrooms for me? Or can you please? He's good at following recipes too. So sometimes if I have a marinade, I'll ask him while I'm at the grocery store picking up what I need. Hey, can you get that marinade going and throw the chicken in? I just have like 4 ingredients I have to go grab from the store. So he's giving little jobs to parents or partners is also a really good thing to get in the habit of.
Mm, totally agree. This whole conversation is convicting because, listen, I like when I say I haven't been doing anything, I think I need to find that ground where it's not all or nothing, where
Yeah.
it's not like, oh, I'm doing all the grocery shopping and I'm coming up with epic menus every night. I'm 7 on the Enneagram. So that is very 7, that it has to be epic and new. And I want to blow my kids' minds and show them, you're going to remember a mom who knows how to cook. And
Yeah.
instead, I just need to help my man out. I need to do some things. And I feel like I'm getting into a place more emotionally. I think, I have such a creative job and I expend so much creativity throughout my day that dinner does feel like such a just task. And it feels like that to him too. It's just like, I will say, I'm going to share 3 tips with our listeners right now. I just discovered chicken tortilla soup from Costco, and it's really good.
Mhm.
Okay, so there's a good cheat. The
Mhm.
other cheat we found are those Kevin meals, and they're available at Costco. And there's like the Thai basil one, and we just add some extra coconut milk to that and some rice and
Yum.
some veggies. And so that's like a huge cheat meal for
Mhm.
us. And then, of course, that we found this taco truck that has
Yeah.
carnitas. Boom.
So
Just buy
good.
that. And then, our local grocery store has really good queso. So there's so many ways to cheat. And I guess I need to not say that they're cheating. I can say
Yeah,
those are
they're
cooking
not.
too.
They're cooking. Yeah.
They're
One of my
cooking.
favorite cheat things that when you talked about Costco used to make, I haven't, since moving to Austin 2 years ago, I've only been to Costco a few times, but they used to have these panko crusted chicken breasts at
Mm.
Costco, and they're just freezer, keep in the freezer. I would just grab the fixings for a Cobb salad. So easy. Whatever cheese you have, you either can make your own dressing or you can just have blue cheese dressing, ranch dressing, whatever. And I would just cook up some bacon, which we always have on hand, hard boil some eggs, which we always have on hand, and then pull out those panko crusted chicken breasts. And I would just make like a really good, and the kids, it's so, you can deconstruct it and give the kids, chicken strips that you slice up, and you can give them some hard boiled eggs for protein, extra protein, and you can give them veggies. And those are some of my other favorite meals, is meals that you can break down for the adults. You have something for the adults, you have something, bigger, and then you can break it down for the kids if you have younger kids, which is always fun.
I love that. And you put ranch dressing on anything for the kids and
Yeah.
they'll eat it. Let's face it.
Exactly.
Let's face it. Are we eating veggies or are we actually having ranch dressing?
Pizza
I don't
crust.
know. I can't tell. It's a toss.
Yeah.
Well, Holly, we're so excited to purchase your book, The Modern Proper:
Yay.
Simple Dinners for Every Day. It's available now for pre-order and it will be out in April. So I'm already putting it in my cart so I can just get it right away. And this really does serve as an inspiration for me to get back into it. I'm going to keep everybody posted on Instagram. I had this big moment and it was almost keeping myself accountable. I'm going to be doing this now. And I've had people be like, so how's that going? And I'm like, it lasted 2 weeks.
Oh.
And now Joe's cooking again. So
I'm going to ask you next time I see you how it's going.
Okay, you do that. Thanks for coming on, Holly.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You can follow Modern Proper at Modern Proper on Instagram, or you can find their website at modernproper.com. And stay tuned. Their book is coming out in April. And if you want a sneak peek, head on over to Modern Proper and check it out. Thanks so much for tuning in to today's show. Our music is by Ellie Holcomb. And I'm Jessica Honegger. Until next time, let's take each other by the hand and keep going scared.